it would be goal to go on the 1-yard line. And I used to smile because there wasn't a soul in the stadium that didn't know what we were going to do.
Hey, let's go our best play with our best player.
What play you call?
What do you think we call?
14 flat. I got to know.
Everybody in this place knows. They know.
Everybody in the stadium knows who's getting the ball. They know it. Your team knows it. It is attitude. But you also have to have intelligence. You have to know what you're doing. I could squeeze through these tight little holes, tunnel my way through, power my way through. Then I could score by air. I was going to score, but I always knew where the soft spots were.
Touchdown for Kansas City, his 100th career rushing touchdown, his 106th rushing touchdown, tying Jimmy Brown, his 114th career touchdown.
There are two types of players. Those who know and those who don't. The smartest ones usually play the longest and usually the most successful.
Move over Walter Payton. Marcus Allen now has more rushing touchdowns than any running back in the history of the National Football League.
You're going to be a football player when you go away.
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
He might be the finest quarterback produced in the last 10 years.
He's a day like this. That's all I need.
Fortunately for me, I didn't lose my life, didn't lose my job. Football convinced me that life is a team game.
Rest of your life, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
I trust that everyone had a great day despite the weather that didn't cooperate. The spirit and the light of everyone here, I think, heated up the afternoon, which is really important to me. You know, I saw my mom and my dad after 54 years in perfect union. I've often said this, I didn't have to look any further than the dining room table for my role model. I always wanted to honor my parents. I always wanted to realize my dream, too.
Marcus Allen was a football star for Lincoln High School in San Diego.
I was a defensive player. Loved to hit people.
One time he made one game, 49 tackles.
But they needed a quarterback, and coach wanted him to play quarterback, and he really didn't want to.
I went under center as instructed, and I fumbled the ball, I think it was maybe 8 times in a row. And I did it on purpose, and he knew I did it on purpose, and so he kicked me off the team, which was shocking to me because I was the best player on the team, potentially the best player in San Diego. I wanted my father to raise some hell and say, "Are you crazy? Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing?" And my dad didn't do that at all.
He wanted me to go up there and beat up the coach. I said, no. You got to be a team player.
Allen returned to the team. His senior season, he played defensive back and also quarterback. Lincoln won the county finals, and he scored all 5 of the team's touchdowns. The performance earned him a scholarship to USC and a trip to the Waldorf Astoria in New York City.
It was a Hertz #1 award for the most outstanding performance, and I represented the state of California. OJ was the Hertz spokesperson, and he was one of my favorite players of all time. When he walked into the room, he said, "Where's the young man that's going to USC?" And that was me. For a 18-year-old kid going to USC, meeting probably the greatest Trojan of all time, it was great.
After leaving Lincoln, where he played both ways, Allen was unsure where he'd play at USC.
Well, it depends. I think I'd like to try to win the Heisman if I play an offensive position, but I'm trying to go into college and get me a degree.
He was going to be a defensive back, and he was going to be a part of our group, having Dennis Smith, having Joey Browner, and possibly Marcus Allen. That would have been a great secondary.
But tailback, not defensive back, was the position USC was famous for.
Tailback was the position I really cared the most about. There was a tradition of greatness at that position and a responsibility that went with it. I was kind of always conspiring to find the next tailback, and I'd kind of had Ronnie in the back of my mind as maybe moving in that position.
But Coach Robinson was swayed by one of his first conversations with Allen.
About 3 days into our practice, he was standing in the lobby where we have the Heisman trophies of past players, and he was kind of staring at it.
I said, it's going to be hard to win a Heisman playing defensive back, but I always wanted to win one. That was the interesting thing.
I made the right decision. I got Marcus on offense and Ronnie on defense.
Allen was moved to running back, but as the 190-pound sophomore fullback. For number 12, senior Charles White.
He's the lead blocker. We're running the ball 30, 40 times a game. You would look at him and you would say, God, how is this guy taking this punishment? His nose broken, bruised up, and yet he never complained. He knew that there was a sacrifice to be made for this team.
With Allen at fullback, White ran for over 1,800 yards. USC did not lose a game, and White became the third Trojan tailback to win the Heisman Trophy. The following year, for the first time in his life, Allen was a tailback.
No player figures to come under more scrutiny than Marcus Allen of the University of Southern California. Although he'll take the field as a virtual unknown, he has been asked to play the most glamorous role in college football, to be the tailback at USC. The guys out there have nicknamed him Little Juice because he reminds them of O.J.
Do you think it's fair to make comparisons?
Not really, but you have to stand. I think anytime you play in a position such as USC tailback, you're going to be compared to, I guess, the other great running backs. It's just, I guess it comes with the territory, so you're going to have to be prepared and be able to accept that.
If there was one of the former Trojan tailbacks that you would like to be associated with, just a little bit, who would that be?
Well, it's Juice. I mean, if I had Juice's speed, I'd be gone.
His junior season, Allen ran for over 1,500 yards, but was unable to break the long run.
There were a lot of times that Marcus Allen slipped in the hole or slipped making a cut, and the press got on him, and, it's not easy. I think the one that really got him was the LA Times said, does SC finally have an average tailback?
You got to be able to control this football game.
Now, Marcus, in my view, is the most intelligent football player I've ever dealt with. He learned what it was he was doing.
I wasn't really trying to make plays, I think, my junior year. Sometimes to please the coaching staff, you do exactly what they say. They just want you to hit it up in there, and you miss opportunities. And then my senior year clicked. I got it. Now I wasn't just concerned with just running up in there hard. I was going to make plays. I was going to be a little bit rebellious and just do what I thought was necessary in the field.
He became the best cutback runner I've ever seen. I'd tell an assistant coach, give the ball to Marcus. don't throw the ball. Give the ball to Marcus. And we did.
His senior season, Allen shattered the college football record book. He became the first running back in history to run for over 2,000 yards.
The winner of the 1981 Heisman Trophy Award, Marcus Allen of the University of Southern California.
Probably the happiest day of my life right now, and it's, I guess, an award that is very, very prestigious, and
I guess I found my place in history now. I remember calling home, talking to my mom. Mom, we did it. I said, let me talk to Dad. And she said, well, he can't talk right now. I said, why? He said, well, he's crying.
It was his dad who first convinced him to be a team player. It led to Allen accepting a new position in high school, then in college. Both times, he was ultimately rewarded with the highest individual honor he could win.
The Oakland Raiders, Oakland's first-round selection, running back Marcus Allen of USC.
I like it. Imagine this. The Raiders were moving down to Los Angeles. I didn't have to go anywhere.
Good answer the phone.
I mean, how lucky can a guy get?
Hello. Yes. Thank you. It's great to be a Raider. It's great to be a Raider.
I mean, it was perfect.
You know, Raider.
Who walks into the locker room and you have Art Shell, Gene Upshaw, Cliff Branch, Jim Plunkett, Ted Hendricks? I didn't say one word going into camp. And I was smart enough to know you already got a target on your back because you're the Heisman Trophy winner, you're the #1 draft pick. Don't open your mouth, just go in there and work your tail off. And that way you can get the players to accept you.
Marcus Allen's first game as a pro in San Francisco against Ronnie Lott and the defending Super Bowl champion 49ers.
I'm going to compete against my brother. And like all of us know, if it's your brother, you want to kill him. And there's one moment in the game where he's running a sweep, and I'm coming 100 miles an hour, and I know he doesn't see me. And I'm getting ready to knock the crap out of him on the sideline. He does a 360, and I missed him. After the game, I said, man, how did you know? He goes, man, I was watching you the whole time.
The Raider veterans were watching Marcus, and they had seen enough.
Ted Hendricks was standing on the sideline, and I remember Ted just saying, just get a ball to Marcus. That gave me so much confidence that he had confidence in me.
Two things that come to mind when I think of Marcus. One, incredibly versatile. There wasn't one aspect of playing the position that Marcus didn't excel at. You could name 20 running backs who were bigger, stronger, faster. You couldn't name 2-3 running backs who were as versatile. He could run the football, obviously, with great vision. He gave you a piece. He never gave you a full kind of hit. He could throw the football. He was a tremendous blocker. His nose for the goal line, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, need the score. Marcus found a way. Here's the other thing that immediately pops into mind when I think of Marcus. Tough. Tough. All day tough. If you're going to get into it, kill him, because he's just going to keep coming back.
In 1982, he won Rookie of the Year. In 1983, he lifted the Raiders to a championship. In the playoffs, all the elements of his greatness were on display, in one of the most dominant performances by a running back in postseason history. But it began with a little luck against the Steelers' legendary linebacker, Jack Lampert.
As I made a cut, dirt flew in his eye and he turned away. I'm running for a touchdown.
Allen finished with 121 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns as the Raiders ran away from the Steelers. The win set up a rematch with the Seahawks, a team that had beaten the Raiders twice that season
Seattle knew us so well. I mean, it's no secret. I mean, they even knew our plays. I looked across the line of scrimmage from Kenny Easley. I shook my head and I said, I'm coming right there. I think he shook his head back and said, okay. All I remember was coming out with a black eye and seeing stars, but I wasn't going out the game.
Allen went from seeing stars to being the brightest of them all. He finished with 154 yards rushing, 62 receiving, and scored the Raiders' final touchdown. But his greatest performance was still to come.
It was 12 seconds to go in the third quarter. Power play off the left side, 17 Bob Trejo. Ken Coffey came up in a reverse field, and in doing so, he almost got the ball out. After I made that turn, everything slowed down. I remember Neil Olkowitz just grasping. I mean, I could almost see the anxiety on their faces and the tension as I was running by. And then about 20 yards from the goal line, everything came back to normal speed.
Marcus Allen. Allen cuts back again. What a day he's had.
I'll tell you, I have never seen anyone run against the Redskins like this. He's just running by him and around him in every way you can.
This is a new Super Bowl record.
I have already had a call from Moscow. They think that Marcus Allen is a new secret weapon, and they insist that we dismantle it.
Allen was on top of the world and the king of Los Angeles, but it wouldn't last.
Marcus kind of embodied LA.
I love L.A.
He was huge. There was nobody bigger, there was no brighter star in Los Angeles than Marcus.
Mr. Green, I'm dying to get to training camp.
Look, Rick, this goes beyond football. I know your value, and we're going to get that.
Yeah, but I don't need that much money.
Let me tell you how much money you really need, okay?
Marcus was kind of cool, you know, without trying, which really cool guys are pretty good at. Marcus was real good at it.
A great-looking guy, a tremendous football player, very personable, extremely articulate. I mean, he was the kind of guy that you'd gravitate toward.
Yet, when the Raiders drafted Marcus Allen, critics wondered what the attraction was.
One thing about Marcus Allen, he's a 4.5 40 man. It's not extremely fast. He does fumble like crazy. Bud and I saw that during the course of last year. He fumbles the ball out. I'll tell you right now, don't be surprised to see them move this guy to the outside and play him as a wide receiver.
Allen became a Hall of Fame running back, but perhaps the Raiders would have preferred a Hall of Fame receiver.
Philosophically, having a running back that picks up 1,500 yards wasn't necessarily what that organization wanted.
Al Davis' philosophy was you threw the football. You ran the ball so that you could throw the ball.
I wanted more touches, and I went to Al and I said, we need to run the ball more. He says, well, why don't you run a few laps in practice or something like that, but you're not going to get it in a game. Obviously, that didn't go over too well.
In 1985, Allen got his wish. He carried the ball 380 times, gained over 1,700 yards, and was named league MVP. But in the playoffs, the Raiders were upset, and so was their owner.
I can recall talking with Al about Marcus, and he felt at some point that Marcus was getting bigger than the Raiders, and he had a hard time with that because it was always about the Raiders. I think that caused, whatever the split was, that caused that. I do not know
what event happened, however, that made Al feel that way?
Well, you know, I had heard people say that I started getting referred to as Marcus and the Raiders, but it was never by me. Whatever I did, I always tried to downplay the things that I accomplished.
I thought I was ready to play, and I think I was capable of doing the job.
All I wanted to do was be great, and when you do great things, you get attention. I didn't have anything to do with the amount of attention I got. I always wanted to be just, one of the guys. Now, I've said I'm 60% of the offense, and I wanted to get paid accordingly. I mean, but
In 1986, Allen played much of the season with an injured ankle.
I shouldn't have been playing. I was hard at it, like great players do. I felt like I could play better on one leg than most guys could on two.
In an important late-season game, the Raiders, in position for the game-winning field goal, instead give the ball to Allen.
It was the first time we hadn't made the playoffs in a long time. It was basically all my fault. So there was a lot of anger. I was pretty upset. I think he said he should have traded me.
The Raiders did not trade Allen, but in October of 1987, they had a new running back, Bo Jackson.
You're talking about two great players, two distinctly different players. One, I think, probably fascinated Al more than the other because of just the sheer speed, the power.
There goes Bo, and nobody catches Bo. Touchdown.
As Marcus's role was lessened, Bo was telling us and Marcus, well, there's a new sheriff in town. He's just kind of making fun of the whole situation.
I didn't want to split time. I wanted to play full time. So I basically said, let me play fullback. I thought we'd be, unstoppable as a duo.
Al took him from a Hall of Fame running back, turned him into a fullback for Bo. Marcus did it. But we'd go, what the heck, why are we not using this guy? We knew something was up, and it was earlier than how it showed up later with him being moved to fullback for Bo and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't quite right. There was something there.
Allen had just one 100-yard rushing game in 4 regular seasons playing with Jackson. By 1990, he grew tired with the arrangement.
Do you like the idea, though, of playing fullback again and blocking and doing all that stuff that
Who says I'm playing fullback?
Well, no one yet, but I'm saying if it happens.
No, it's not going to happen.
The two-man backfield persisted, but in their first playoff game together, one dropped out.
Well, fortunately, you have an all-pro in Marcus Allen. You've got to figure Marcus is going to carry the ball. There it is.
He does, and he's got a first down and more.
Allen had his best day in 5 years. The Raiders won their first playoff game since Super Bowl 18.
Now look at this guy's balance. What a clutch player. Of all the people in football, he's the guy you'd like to see with the ball and to finish somebody off.
Yeah, I'm down here with a guy that was back to his old Heisman form today. This particularly gratifying after the tough time you had early in the year. All the speculation that you might get traded. Here we are in what amounts to nearly a championship game, and your team needed you, and you were able to go out and get 140 yards.
Well, no question about it, but to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to get traded.
Jackson never played football again, but for the next 2 years, instead of playing Allen, the Raiders tried to find his replacement.
At the end of each league season since 1967, Raider players vote for their teammate who best exemplifies the pride, poise, and spirit of the Raiders. The 1988 Raider Commitment to Excellence Award is awarded to the only player in Raider history to have won this honor from his teammates 4 times, running back Marcus Allen.
As his Raider career progressed, Marcus Allen continued to win praise from his teammates, yet lose playing time from his coaches. In 1989, he returned from injury to face the Cardinals.
And the meeting room, you know, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday night, we talked about it. Some people still down on him. He's just coming back from an injury. He's not fresh. He's not ready. We don't need to play him. But then we got in the game, it's late in the game, and we were down by 5, and the ball's on the 4-yard line. I forgot what happened in that meeting room. I just knew we had to get this thing in the end zone, and my mindset was, hey, I'm putting him in.
Tom Walsh was the offensive coordinator. He said, what is he doing in the game? You know Al doesn't want him in the game. You know Al doesn't like him.
I had the headset on, and I was on the sideline, and not to get yelled at and screamed at and fussed at, I took my headset off.
Marcus Allen is in there. He has the ball. Touchdown!
I got a little slap on the face saying, hey, we wasn't supposed to do that. I thought we wasn't going to put him in. But good thing we did. We won the game.
I do remember going back to the locker room, and Al gave me a dirty look, which was the strangest thing in the world because, you know, you figure you want to win the game, and regardless of who does it. But it was just another awkward situation. The animosity was pretty thick around there.
Those guys battle, and again, those guys, I'm speaking Marcus in the front office, those guys' battles was bigger than us. You know what I mean? That was bigger than all of us. So all we could do was coach the guys we had here and just keep on going.
In 1991, the Raiders signed running back Roger Craig, and in 1992, Eric Dickerson.
I don't think there's been any great running back in the league that has ever had to share the position with that many great running backs. There was a time that I came into camp fourth string. I'm in the Hall of Fame, by the way, but I came into camp fourth string. I just want you to know that.
How did he end up falling from 1 to 4? Well, that came from the top. Now, you know, well, Terry, who's the top? Well, I ain't going to tell you who's the top, but that came from the top.
When that was going on, Marcus Allen arranged to come into the weight room like 4 o'clock in the morning, do his 3-hour work so that he would be out of there by 7 before anybody else came in there.
The night before games, we would talk, and he would tell me, I probably won't get any playing time. It wasn't one of those kind of moments where you see a guy who decides that I'm packing it in. If anything, he did more.
Allen could only watch as the Raiders fell behind the Giants 10-0.
He doesn't play the whole game. He doesn't get on the field. At halftime, he makes a speech. We get fired up. We end up turning the game around. It was confusing.
I didn't understand what was happening. Covering the NFL at that time, Monday Night Football, we had the Raiders a number of times, and living in Los Angeles and knowing Marcus. And Marcus was not talking about it.
Yeah, I internalized it. I mean, obviously, it ate at me. It was tough going to work at times. I mean, who wanted to go to work, watch everybody else play?
I remember saying something along the lines of, hey, look, you know, at some point, everybody's really interested in what's happening here. And you guys are on Monday night, 3 times a year. So if you ever want to say what you have to say, we have the platform for that, the best platform.
How would you right now characterize the relationship with Al Davis?
Well, I guess it's acrimonious at best. I don't know. What do you think about a guy that has attempted to, ruin your career?
Al Davis would scoff at the notion that he would sacrifice the good of the whole team because of a personal vendetta. Do you feel there has been a personal vendetta with you?
No question about it. Absolutely. He told me he was going to get me. We've had conversations. I don't know for what reason, but he told me that he was going to get me. But it's just been an outright joke to sit on the sidelines and not get the opportunity to play. I mean, I shouldn't say not get the opportunity. They don't want me to play.
Art Shell is the coach of this team. Have you addressed the issue of the lack of playing time with him directly?
I've talked to Art. Art said he has nothing to do with it.
How did you get into the doghouse?
I don't know. I don't have the slightest idea. Looking back, I don't think I did anything. Maybe it's just the way I am, and I can't change that, and I don't apologize for that. Maybe that offended him. I don't know. Maybe it rubbed him the wrong way. I just can't fathom, what had happened.
Told Al Davis what Marcus had said. He said the statements are, and he said it with a laugh, he said they're totally fraudulent. He's reported late for the last 5 years. He's been hurt. Maybe he doesn't like the competition, talking about bringing in people like Dickerson and Craig, and before that, Bo Jackson. It was explosive. It was memorable, but it was something that people had to hear about because they didn't know. They didn't know what in the world was going on. And ironically, even after that interview had aired, people were still trying to figure out, now what happened between those guys? I still don't know.
I never quite understood what made things go bad. To me, the whole thing was a waste of great talent and energy. If you don't like me, let me go. And I never understood that. Let me go play football someplace else. Now, if you love power, I can understand why you keep me there. I think of what could have been the perfect marriage in Los Angeles with the Raiders, and just didn't turn out to be. And it was a shame.
As a teammate, I certainly made my feelings pretty clear publicly what I thought about Marcus. Great player, great teammate. Was puzzled by all of that.
Maybe I give you one person, Al Davis, that didn't really like Marcus. I can't tell you two people that didn't love Marcus Allen.
In the season finale, the 6-9 Raiders trailed the defending Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins by 6 with less than 2 minutes left. Benched most of the game, Allen gained 25 yards on the final drive, and the Raiders won in the closing seconds.
We wasn't going nowhere, but I think that day for Marcus Allen, all of his teammates would have carried him off the field because our guys loved him and they said, hey, if this is the last game, this is the way we're going to send him off.
For the 6th time, Allen's teammates voted him the winner of the Commitment to Excellence Award. Allen's career as a Raider was over. He would change uniforms the following season, but he'd show the league and the Raiders he was still the same Marcus. After 11 seasons with the Raiders, Marcus Allen went in search of a new team.
I'm sure there were skeptics that I was basically washed up, that I couldn't play anymore. And frankly, I mean, for 33 years old, I mean, that's usually the downside for most running backs. I'm sort of unique in the sense that I was chronologically one age and my body was another.
That was one of the things that he was selling himself to us on, that I may be 33 chronologically, but I'm a lot younger because Al didn't use me for whatever reason for quite a bit of time.
So how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. So?
Allen signed with, of all teams, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders' biggest rival.
I just wanted to go to a place that would allow me to play and that wanted me there and had a chance to win.
I don't say much, man. I'm one of the quiet guys.
I mean, I didn't say, oh, yeah, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to get back at the Raiders. Not at all.
Let's go.
One play at a time.
Initially, we felt that he could definitely help us in short yardage and goal line situations, but the obvious was that he was still in phenomenal shape and could take the pounding.
He still had plenty of tread left on the tire, if you will.
Leave Marcus. Hey, here comes he! All right, Marcus is a halfback, 26 fullback arrow. Regular Marcus is halfback.
By midway through the season, Allen had become the Chiefs' starting running back. Together with newly signed veteran Joe Montana, Kansas City had its best season in over 20 years.
Game after game, both of those two did some unbelievable things, and we fed off that all year to make us believe that we could win.
In the playoffs, the Chiefs faced the Houston Oilers, winners of 11 consecutive games. With less than 2 minutes left, Kansas City led by 1.
We know that if we score here, we're going to win the game. We're going to beat this team that everybody thought was going to be in the Super Bowl. Everybody thought cannot be beat. All the linemen are breathing heavy, and we're tired, and, it's been a real physical game. And the guy says, hey, Marcus, I'm just a fat kid from Chicago. Let's get the ball in the end zone here and get the hell out of here. And he said, don't worry about it. I got it.
3rd and 2 at the 21. Maybe the game's most important play. And Marcus over the middle. First down run, 20, 6, 8, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! We've got a Kansas City winner in the heart of Texas today.
As a friend, you knew that he had it. There was nothing greater in the world than to see the guy have those moments again.
Allen won Comeback Player of the Year, and in true Hollywood fashion, achieved a goal even more dramatic: redemption.
I always referred to it as Raider Week. It's all we ever had to talk about. Raider Week was different than any other week. Everybody in the locker room, everybody in the stadium, I'm sure, knew this was not just another game for Marcus Allen. But if it was the Raiders, it wasn't just another game for Marty Schottenheimer either. And I hate to personalize, and I have great respect for Al, but I always felt that he thought that the Raiders were everything. Marcus and I were like brethren when it came to looking at the Raiders, saying, if we're going to win one game, this is the team we want to beat.
I never thought about getting back. Never once. You got to understand, I love the guys that I played with. And I was always conflicted in that regard.
If you asked him, he would say that it didn't mean any more than any other game. But that team said he couldn't do it anymore. And he always wanted to prove them wrong. I remember the death stare between Marcus and Mr. Davis when they walked by each other.
In Kansas City, he faced the Raiders and made history.
He's in for the touchdown! That is number 100.
A better guy in a better situation.
Poetic justice, that's all it is. That's all it is. I don't question fate, I just say I appreciate it. It's in my favor, that's all.
In Los Angeles, he helped close out an era. The last Raider home game in Los Angeles would also decide the final playoff spot in the AFC.
Marty Schottenheimer and the Chiefs said, if we're going to win in Los Angeles, we must run the ball. And Marcus Allen has answered the call.
Allen ran for 132 yards, his best performance in 4 years, and achieved another career milestone.
Marcus Allen at the 50, 45, will give him the 10,000 yards.
The Chiefs advanced, and the Raiders moved back to Oakland. In Oakland, Allen became the first player in NFL history to gain 10,000 yards rushing and 5,000 yards receiving. In his 5 years with the Chiefs, Allen played the Raiders 10 times and won all but one.
You know, the amazing thing is that the Raider players always would tell us, hey, God, that Marcus Allen, they missed him. 90% of the guys wished that Marcus Allen was still on their team. 90% of the guys thought that Marcus Allen was the difference in those games.
He was the most instinctive, natural player that I've ever been around. I mean, you feel like you were stealing money getting paid to coach this guy. I mean, he just did it.
After 16 seasons, Allen retired from the game with the most touchdowns by a running back in NFL history. Throughout his life, Marcus Allen was never too far from his father, Harold.
My dad always wanted to be the father that he didn't have. My father was always present in every aspect of my life.
I still can't figure this out. For 11 years, he played for the Raiders. I was the only father in that locker room after every game.
When it came time for the Hall of Fame and Allen needed a presenter, there was one obvious choice:
He said, I want the world to know that I got a daddy. You going to present me? I said, okay, thank you.
Of the many in attendance for Allen's induction, one was Raiders owner Al Davis.
We tried to shake hands early on, and he didn't want to. I wasn't going to let anything become larger than my parents or my family enjoying that moment of my induction.
This indeed is an honor and a pleasure to present a young man that God blessed me to be his father. Ladies and gentlemen, my son, Marcus Allen. So when I come back and I had to pass by Al Davis, and when I got almost to him, he jumped up and he said, congratulations, kid, put his hand out. So I let him know that I'm not gonna be like he did. I shook his hand. I said, well, thank you, coach. And he smiled and sat back down.
To the Los Angeles Raiders, I'd like to thank Mr. Al Davis for drafting me, Mr. Ron Wolf.
It's interesting. People will come up to me with some sort of Raider item, and they say, well, I know you hate the Raiders. And I say, I don't hate the Raiders. I don't hate the helmet. I don't hate the colors. I don't hate anybody. I didn't even hate Al. You know, we had a disagreement, and life is too short to dwell on it, and you move on.
"20 years after his split from the Raiders, Allen was invited back by Al's son, Mark, and the Raiders family to light the flame in Al Davis's memory. For Marcus Allen, it is one last unexpected honor in a career full of them, and completes a football life story that reads like no other. First college running back to gain 2,000 yards. Heisman Trophy winner. Rookie of the Year. Super Bowl MVP. League MVP. And Comeback Player of the Year. His final NFL numbers: 12,243 rushing yards, 5,411 receiving, and 144 touchdowns. All this while spending 4 seasons as a fullback and 2 seasons where he hardly played at all.
I spent 25 seasons with the Raiders. Of all the people that ever came through during the time I was there, somebody has to be number one. Marcus Allen was number one. He was the best player during my time with the Raiders that I've ever seen.
In the 5 years we had him, there was no evidence of any deterioration of his level of performance. Whatever he did, he made it look easy. If God put one person on this earth to be a professional football player, it would have been Marcus Allen.
But keep projecting me the greatest of all time. I may have been the most knowledgeable. I had the luxury of playing quarterback. I played defense. And then playing fullback. And playing tailback. I knew everything about what each player was doing. The game is really a simple game if you know what you're doing.